Hello folks, welcome to Nigeria. This is actually my second attempt at this video, just because something happened and my sister needed me to take care of it. Now, this is my human discussion video for D&D 5th edition. I do apologize, I'm actually eating breakfast because I'm in a bit of a rush. Even more so now that my sister is that caused me to quickly stop recording But okay. Um I'd normally like to read out these bits to you, but again I already did it and I'm in a bit of a rush. But basically it talks about how a drow normally didn't give two thoughts to humans, but she found them fascinating how they are out to explore, and how they are at first were how they were to their first set sail to pillage and terrorize, but then they eventually decide to settle down. Now, this is also expanded upon in this, pointing out that, like in most worlds, humans are the most common, but at the same time, they're the shortest lived of the common races. Now, the next section, the broad spectrum, talks about how because of the fact that humans like to travel and migrate and conquest, they're one of the most physically diverse amongst the common races, because again they travel. And again, now I'm not sure if any of you viewers believe in the theory of evolution, but I'm guessing this harbors to that, because it does in terms of real life human biology, and the fact that we have so many differences based on where our ancestors were. But yeah, so they can range from 5 feet to 6 feet tall. They can weigh from 125 to 250. They have so many skin ranges, from black to very pale, and their hair colors from black to blonde to curly. What? Okay, guys, I'm gonna be straight up serious here. I'm gonna read this specifically from the player's handbook. Okay, I'm being honest with you. I'm not sure if you can see it completely. I'm gonna try and highlight it. There's no highlight feature. Okay, I'm just gonna highlight this last bit where it talks. I can't. There we go. Where it actually makes it harder to see, I imagine. Okay, here's what it says about the hair. And hair colors ranging from black to blonde, curly, kinky, or straight. What the hell? I have no idea what kinky hair is, but okay. Males often sport facial hair that tends to be either sparse or thick, and a lot of humans have a dash of non-human blood, revealing hints of elf, orc, and other lineages. So that, yeah. See, whereas if an elf and an orc have a child, it seems like this suggests that it would either take after the orc or an elf. You wouldn't really see the features of the mixed blood. Whereas then with humans, if they have like an orc mother or father or an elf mother or father, the blood will show in the child's appearance. Humans reach around adulthood in their late teens, and they rarely live even a single century. Now, I think that's a bit contradictory, because I could have swore that in the human traits, it doesn't actually give you. It just says they live less than a century. Okay, so they don't. Unlike some of the other races, they don't give you a like actually all the races. There's some that give you a definite. This is how long you'll live, whereas then they're a bit more vague. Like elves, they live well over 700. But okay. The next section is called variety variety in all things. I'm probably butchered that pronunciation. I do apologize. And it talks about how the humans seem to be the most adaptable and they're the most ambitious of all the common races. They have varying tastes, morals, customs in different lands, and where they have settled. And when they settle, though, they stay and build cities that last for the ages. That's great. Like I like how it points out, like yeah, the humans when they build a kingdom, it will last. You know, and it will often last beyond their lifetime. Like, but and it also seems like they're patent for adventuring, and they always plan for the adventure to make sure they leave. And they often plan like to leave a lasting legacy. Individual as a group of humans are adaptable opportunists, and they stay alert to changing political and social dynamics. I like that. So like it describes the humans essentially as like because humans are so short lived, like and the fact that they spread out. Say elven communities, they don't really spread out. Like for example, in Matt Mercer's Taldori campaign guide, Singorn is very strict about population growth because they don't expand, and most elves seem to not really travel from there. It's very rare that they'll set up another city or whatnot. Hence why Singorn, to my knowledge, is one of the only elven cities. So, so yeah, this like where humans would, if a human has enough money and enough men, and a large enough followers, they can easily leave and set up a kingdom, and that will then and also because they are not singular, like elves or dwarves, they tend to have their own cultures from kingdom to kingdom. Now, here's the bit that I was most interested in reading. It's the perspective of it's the human's perspective of the other races. Now, we did hear the dwarves, the elves, and the halflings. I will not get into them. If you're interested in seeing how they see humans or how they see the other common races, please watch my other videos. Just as readily as they mix with other humans, mingle with members of other races. They get along with almost everyone, though they might not be close to many. Humans serve as ambassadors, diplomats, magistrates, merchants, and functions of all kinds. Now, here's how the humans view dwarves. They're stout folks, stalwart friends, and true to their word. Their greed for gold is their downfall, though. Very interesting. Dwarves sort of admired humans for their long lasting kingdoms, if I remember. I do apologise, it's because I'm eating, as I said earlier, and I don't want to talk with my mouth full. Now, here's their view of elves. It's best not to wander into elven woods. They don't like intruders, and you'll as likely be bewitched as peppered with arrows. Still, if an elf can get past the damn racial pride and actually treat you like an equal, you can learn a lot from them. So okay, so humans view elves. Now again, this is elves in general, just the race. I know there's technically sub races of elves, like wood elves are the more racist and pompous of them. Which is weird because, as I said in the elf video, it's normally the high elves that do that. But okay, but yeah, humans view them as pompous, but they acknowledge that the elves have a lot to teach them. But okay, now here's the halfling perspective. It's hard to beat a meal in a halfling home, as long as you don't crack your head on the ceiling. Good food and good stories in front of a nice warm fire. If halflings had a shred of ambition, they might really amount to something. So yeah, sort of like the dwarves, the humans actually maybe sort of more like the elves. The humans tend to see it good, but also harshly judge the other races. Like again, the way they viewed the elves, like the elves viewed humans with admiration. The only thing that they said about negative about humans was they should take time to think about what they're doing. Like that's the only thing. Again, that was the only negative that elves had, whereas the humans was just like, again, you could say that they you should respect elves, like maybe like for combat things. I don't know. Now, where a single elf or dwarf might take on the responsibility of guarding a special location or a powerful secret, humans found sacred orders and institutions for such purposes, while dwarf clans and halfling elders pass on ancient traditions to each new generation. Humans, temples, governments, libraries, and codes of law fix their traditions in the bedrock of history. So, yeah, basically, it's like humans where dwarves would protect the source of, say, some knowledge, and halflings would rather pass it on from vocally from generation to generation. Humans would rather write it down. They would create whole orders. Like normally it's a dwarf clan or a single dwarf like that would protect this thing. Whereas humans would be like, you know what? Let's create like let's recruit a bunch of warriors to protect this thing, and we'll pay them to do it, and they will be in charge of then recruiting new members to carry on the torch of the protection. So yeah, um, but yeah, now it points down to the next bit that although some humans can be xenophobic, in general their societies are inclusive. Human lands welcome large numbers of non-humans compared to the proportion of humans who live in non-human lands. Um, which is now again, Matt Ten took to a very good detail of how should I put it the core concept of PHP. Now again, he had to change some things because of copyright, but like his city Singorn, very few non elves are welcome. Very few. They're very race. Now then again, it gives a reason why they are, but to even to that generate, like even to the point where those humans are long gone, they're still viewing humans as often as a nuisance. And then the next bit is going into the fact that they're the exemplars of ambition. Humans who seek adventure are the most daring and ambitious members of a daring and ambitious race. They seek to earn glory in the eyes of their fellows by amassing power, wealth, and fame. More than other people, humans champion causes rather than territories or groups. Now, the next part goes into human names and I always have I know ethnic is the singular, but I don't know how to pronounce that word. Different cultures. This goes into the different cultures of the different humans. One I actually find very interesting is the Shao. Again, not sure that's proper pronunciation, but the Shao are the most numerous and powerful ethnic group in Karadur, far to the east of Erin. They are yellowish bronze in hue. Now, usually presented before given names. Now, you can tell that the Shao, by this, especially this last bit, that the Shao are clearly inspired, like inspiration from, what's it called? Oh my god, I'm blanking. Japanese. Why am I blanking on that? Now, Mulan. I'm not sure about that. Amber skinned, eyes of amber. Their hair ranges from black to dark brown, and their lands where Mulan are most prominent nobles, and many other Mulan shave off all their hair. I'm guessing maybe it's supposed to be China. And again, I'm just thinking, like, why would you name a whole race Mulan? But see, the eastern, dominant eastern and southeastern shores of the inner sea, Mulan are generally tall, slim, and amber skinned. Maybe. Anyway, let's get on now to their traits. Now again, I could describe each of these different cultures, but there's just so many, and often or not, I found that since most people don't really play, in my experience, most people don't play. Use. So I need another sip of my drink. Oh, there we go. I think, hopefully. Most games don't actually take place in Faerun, and that is normally just due to the fact that there's very little of a complete map of Faerun. We get like the Sword Coast and a large chunk of Faerun, but you don't actually see the other king. Like you don't see Shao on the map. You won't get a map of Mulan, or actually maybe you can get a map of here. Northwest have maybe. But yeah, but the point is though, you probably won't see a lot of these kingdoms. It's probably most humans you'll see are the Tatarians. So yeah, it's a little annoying, but hey, what are you gonna do? But anyway, as a human, your ability scores increase one by one. So your dex, strength, wisdom, constitution, and all that go up by one. Instead of two for one and then one for another. Uh, then there's the age. Humans tend toward no particular alignment. The best and the worst are found among them. Humans vary wildly in height and build, from barely 5 feet to well over 6 feet tall. Regardless of your position in that range, your size is medium. Their base walking speed is 30. You can speak, read, and write common and one extra language of your choice. Humans typically learn the languages of other peoples they deal with, including obscure dialects. They're fond of sprinkling their speech with words borrowed from other tongues, orc curses, elvish musical expressions, dwarvish military phrases, and so on. Now, so yeah, humans are the most well-rounded. Like, if you're not sure about what race to play, or again, if you're a builder or a metamaxer or a power gamer, these are all terms for players that create characters. Like, they pick the race specifically to go well with the class that they're playing. I don't really do that. I just like playing tieflings, which we'll get to eventually. Granted, the other races I would like to play as are Dragonborn and Lizard folk, and maybe a Yuan because I love snakes. But anyway, there is a variant of human that gives you some extra stuff. Now, there's things called feats, which allow you to further customize your character. Now, feats can be taken by any class. Sometimes they do have a requirement of an ability score. Like, some may require you to have 14 or 13 or whatever. But anyway, here's what. Now, if you take this variant human trait, you replace your ability score, but you gain, instead of getting an ability score to all your abilities, like instead of one, instead you get two ability scores and you increase them by one. Again, not that good, but here's where it gets interesting. You gain a proficiency in one skill of your choice, and you gain one feat of your choice, which can be handy if you're playing a human wizard. Take a variant, maybe pick lightly armored or a weapon master one. That way you can increase your weapon skills. So that way you would have like a human that is very good with weapons despite being a wizard. Now, granted, with elves, often I see most people who are playing wizard go with elves because they have that already. It's again, that's an example of power gaming, where a player, like again, a player picking a wizard and playing as an elf just because elves get proficiency with certain weapons. I again play as tiefling, and I like playing as the variant tiefling with wings. So yeah, and I choose the feral tiefling as well. So I increase my dexterity and my intelligence rather than my charisma and intelligence. Now again, I'll obviously switch that up, but again, I tend to stick with tiefling. But yeah, I might play as I would love to play as a lizard folk ranger, just because the lizard folk have a special ability to make weapons and whatnot out of the bones of their enemy, and I like the idea of trying to put on an Argonian voice from Elder Scrolls for him. I don't know, I just find that interesting. It'd be my shortest lived character, but like, yeah, it'd be fun. But alright, so as you can see, folks, the next video will be on the Dragonborn. Now, I'm pretty sure that when I was talking to Blue about today's video, he expressed interest in taking part in this video. He's not very interested in humans. Like, both me and him have the same sort of ideology when it comes to humans, and that is if you're a human in real life, why would you want to play one in a fantasy game where there's so many different races? Now, some people may prefer that. I personally don't. Now, again, as I said, this is going to be one of my shortest videos, I think. I haven't actually checked the length of time for all my videos. I do apologize, but I feel like I touched on I think I did touch on this, that, and, you know, each section, except for the different cultures. Because, like, again, they're often not used. But yeah, it's a little annoying that, again, if I was playing a game in in actual Faerun where the DM expressed interest in, you know, the other parts of Faerun, not just the Sword Coast, then yeah, I would so like to play like a Shao, like, you know, be like a wandering Ronin or something like that. But then again, I personally do prefer playing Tieflings or Dragonborn or Lizard Folk. But anyway, with that being said, that was the humans. Now, there are other types of humans. We'll get to them in the different books when I get to them. As I said, we're focusing on the Player's Handbook and we have a long way to go. Now, I'm not going to go into every detail of the Player's Handbook. For example, I'll be talking about the parts where I'll try and talk about are definitely the races, the classes, the personality and background. Actually, I'll be nearly covering everything except for the spells, just because there's so many of them. As you can see, it goes from page the spell description, here we go, goes from 211 to 290. That's over 80 pages of spells, so I'm not going to cover that. But I'll be skipping spells and I'll be skipping the gods. I'll talk about the planes, and I'll then talk about the creature statistics and how they relate to some of the classes, such as Ranger. And I'll talk about the inspirational reading. Now, again, it's funny because, like, some obvious examples are going to be in it. But yeah, once I'm done with this, I'll be then heading over to the SCAG, which is the abbreviation for Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide. It's a book that is meant for players, but also DMs. It expands on the Sword Coast and the different cultures that you find there. This book is mostly just to cover D&D in general, but as they are releasing modules, they sort of focused on the Sword Coast, so I think that's why they released the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide, because that's where most of their games are taking place. But luckily, some don't, and we're actually getting supplements where they use Magic the Gathering, as well as also going to different planes. We're also going to Cult in the latest adventure that Wizards are going to be releasing in September, I believe, and that is Tomb of the Apocalypse. Oh wait, Tomb of Apocalypse. Tomb of Annihilation. Sorry, I'm thinking of Princess of the Apocalypse, also known as Elemental Evil. Now, I won't be covering the modules, which are, you know, campaigns with specific stories. I'll be focusing, as I said in the very first video, I'll be focusing on the Player's Handbook, the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide, and maybe the Monster Manual. I probably won't cover the DMG which is the Dungeon Master's Guide, and that is just due to the fact that there's so much info in that. Instead of doing an in-depth reading of the DMG, I'll probably do a pure on discussion thing, like try and create a DM advice series. But yeah, I'll probably color Volo's Guide a bit and whatnot. But there we go, folks. That is the humans. Now, you are going to see an infinite loop, because I know where to stop. For me to stop recording, I have to click on that. Boom! As you can see, infinite loop. But okay. This is Wilfred Ninja signing off. May the force be with you, and remember, roll for initiative.